Hello! Today we are going to be doing a review of drama and the different structural elements we find in dramatic literature. Now, when we take a look at drama, drama is a story that is told through actions and words of our characters. Now, there's some very important academic vocabulary that we need to make sure that we have down specific for drama. The first being characters. We have a number of characters in our plays or in our drama pieces, and those characters are our actors or our speakers. We also sometimes have narrators. Now, the narrator does not interact with the character, but it does give our audience and our reader important information about what is going on in the play. Our playwright is also known as the author of the play. Lastly, we're going to be talking about stage directions and the importance of stage directions on how our audience and our reader views our characters, because it drastically changes how our readers say lines or what they do in the play and what that means for them as their personal character traits. So stage directions tell our characters how to say their lines or what to do. We're going to take a quick look at some stage directions and how it changes our view of the character and how we would describe that character to be. Here we have an example of a line from a play. Mrs. Smith is our character, and her line is, "Sit down and be quiet." Now, Mrs. Smith is a teacher, and she is telling her students to sit down and be quiet. We are going to take a look how drastically our view of the character changes when stage directions are added into the mix. So here we had some stage directions that were added that says angrily and shaking hands. Angrily tells me how to read the line, and shaking hands is telling me what to do as if I was reading Mrs. Smith's line. So from what it used to be of a calm and collected Mrs. Smith saying, "Sit down and be quiet," has now turned into, "Sit down and be quiet." And as you can imagine, she is shaking her hands. If you were to think, what kind of teacher would you prefer to have? Oftentimes you would say the first teacher, Miss Smith, who said, "Sit down and be quiet." We would characterize that first teacher as cool, calm, collected. That second teacher who said, "Sit down and be quiet," we might characterize as angry, impatient, maybe a crazy teacher. So our stage directions drastically changed our view of Mrs. Smith as a character, simply by how she needed to read her line and what she was doing. Again, we need to pay special attention to the stage directions and knowing what it's asking us to do. So angrily is saying that we need to say that in an angry voice, telling me how to read my lines, and shaking hands is telling the character what to do. There's a couple different ways that we need to be able to identify stage directions. They will look different than the normal text found in that dramatic literature piece. Here we have parentheses around the words angrily and shaking hands. So parentheses is one way that stage directions are notated. Down below, happily is italicized inside of the parentheses. So italicized is when the words lean to the right, and again we have the parentheses. On the very bottom, again, our words are italicized, but this time they're around brackets. We need to make sure that we pay special attention to those and understand each of those as questions will be asked in different ways, as they are notated differently in each piece of dramatic literature. So this is a quick overview of what drama is and some key components that we need to pay attention to, specifically stage directions and how they affect our characters.